Chris Martin cried after hearing Jungkook's statement about Taehyung-What happened? Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. Before we unravel the full story behind this moment, make sure to subscribe to the channel. If you're someone who loves deep, emotional BTS stories with meaning and mystery, you won't want to miss what's coming next. Let's dive in. What if one quiet statement, made in passing, was enough to break a global superstar into tears? Chris Martin, frontman of Coldplay, a man who's shared stages with legends, who's seen the raw emotion of music at its most powerful, was visibly shaken after hearing Jungkook speak about Taehyung. What could Jungkook have said that hit Chris so deeply? And what truth lies behind the sudden, emotional moment that has armies around the world piecing together clues like a global puzzle? It was meant to be a casual interaction. BTS's golden maknae Jungkook and Coldplay's lead singer Chris Martin meeting backstage after a rehearsal. The air was buzzing with anticipation, because any time these two forces connect, something magical tends to follow. They had already collaborated before. My Universe wasn't just a song, it was a cultural moment. Two global icons from opposite sides of the planet blending languages, hearts, and dreams into one melody. The friendship that bloomed between BTS and Coldplay was not just musical, it was deeply human. Especially between Chris and Jungkook. That day, however, wasn't about music. Not directly. It was about something much deeper. Chris Martin, who's known for being an emotionally open artist, one who once admitted that music had saved his life, was there to catch up, maybe even to hear how the boys were holding up post-military enlistments. He'd worked with them closely enough to know that beneath all the lights and fame were 7 young men, constantly navigating an ocean of pressure, loneliness, and sacrifices. It was in the middle of this quiet conversation, somewhere between memories and reflections, that Jungkook spoke. And what he said froze Chris in his tracks. Jungkook wasn't loud. He didn't make a dramatic gesture. But his words were heavy, as if they carried not just his feelings but the weight of years spent watching Taehyung silently battle things no one else saw. He looked down for a moment, eyes distant, and said, "Sometimes I wonder if the world ever truly saw how much Taehyung gave up for all of us." Chris's reaction was immediate. His eyes welled up. He turned slightly away, blinking faster, as if trying to hold it in. A silence fell over the room. Because those words weren't just about Taehyung. They were about sacrifice. About a friend who smiled through pain. A brother who played the part perfectly, while hiding his true feelings under layers of laughter and calm. You see, Taehyung, V of BTS, has always been a mystery wrapped in warmth. He's soulful, artistic, charismatic. But he's also quietly hurting. There have been moments over the years, just flashes where the mask slipped. In behind-the-scenes clips, during fan sign events, in his solo projects like Scenery and Blue and Gray, songs drenched in longing and melancholy. But most of the world only saw the charming V, the fashion icon, the viral fancam magnet. And that, Jungkook realized, might be the saddest part. Because Taehyung never asked for attention. He never cried out loud. He just kept giving his time, his energy, his voice, his privacy, until there was almost nothing left for himself. And Chris knew what that looked like. Chris Martin had been there before. In the early days of Coldplay, when fame hit like a tidal wave, he lost his footing. The world applauded, but inside, he felt hollow. His own battles with depression and self-worth weren't secrets. He'd spoken about them publicly. So when Jungkook said what he said, not as an idol but as a friend worried about someone he loved, it struck something deep within Chris. It wasn't about music anymore. It was about humanity. "You have to protect him," Chris finally whispered, barely audible. "The world takes more than it gives to people like him." And Jungkook just nodded. That short exchange didn't make headlines. There was no press release. But the energy in that room shifted. Later, Chris would mention in an interview, without naming names, that he had seen real vulnerability in someone so young it broke his heart. Fans didn't think much of it back then. But now, connecting the dots, it's crystal clear. He was talking about Taehyung through the eyes of Jungkook. And this moment wasn't isolated. Around this time, ARMY began noticing a subtle change in Jungkook himself. His live streams grew quieter, more introspective. He started speaking more about gratitude and regret, about how fleeting everything was. And every time Taehyung's name came up, there was a pause, a moment of stillness, as if he wanted to say something more but didn't know how. What if Jungkook had been carrying this guilt for a long time? What if he felt that, even with all their success, they didn't do enough to shield Taehyung from the unseen battles? And what if, like Chris, he feared it might be too late? Soft background fades, rising again with slow strings. The truth is, Taehyung has always been the heart that beats quietly in the background of BTS. He's not the loudest, not the one who seeks attention. But his energy, his presence, is irreplaceable. His smile at award shows, his thoughtful gaze during performances, his ability to make even a single fan feel like the only person in the room. That kind of love comes at a cost. And sometimes, the ones who give the most are the ones no one notices are breaking. So when Jungkook spoke to Chris, it wasn't just about one friend. It was a cry for understanding, for recognition, for help. Because Jungkook, for all his strength and success, is still a human being. And watching someone you love slowly lose themselves to the weight of fame and silence is unbearable. And Chris knew that pain, which is why he cried. But this moment would soon trigger something bigger, something no one saw coming. Because just days later, Jungkook would do something bold, something public, something meant to send a message to Taehyung and maybe to the world. That night, during a solo appearance at a small music event, far from the grand arenas and glowing light sticks, Jungkook made a quiet but unforgettable choice. He was asked to cover any song of his choice. He could have picked a crowd favorite, something upbeat or viral. But instead, he picked Fix You by Coldplay, a song about healing, about holding someone through their darkest hours. A song that Chris Martin himself once described as a love letter to someone who couldn't see their own worth. Jungkook stood under a single spotlight. No flashy visuals. No choreography. Just his voice and emotion. As he sang the haunting lyrics, "When you try your best but you don't succeed. When you get what you want but not what you need," his voice trembled. Fans watching the stream that night didn't miss it. A tear rolled down Jungkook's cheek as he reached the final line. "Lights will guide you home." It wasn't just a performance. It was a message. And it was for Taehyung. In a world obsessed with perfection, BTS, and those connected to them like Chris Martin, keep showing us that it's okay to be broken. To feel deeply. To care even when it hurts. Because in the end, the most beautiful music is born not from perfection, but from the pain we dare to share.